Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Welcome to COD Mobile 102, a casual's guide. For today's video, we'll be covering the BAL-27. Introduced in Season 5 of 2026, the BAL is an automatic futuristic assault rifle that first appeared in Advanced Warfare and returned in Modern Warfare 3 2023. The weapon is based on the MSBS Grot B by FB Radom, which appeared earlier in COD Ghost. But instead of the normal bullpup configuration, the BAL's mag feeds from the top like an FN P90. It's also taken some cues from the F2000, but I've already made 2 videos on the F2000, and I still need to make a 4th for the P90. In a way, the Grot is microcosmic of Polish politics. FB Radom, or Łucznik, was founded shortly after Poland's independence from the Russian Empire and victory over the Soviet Union. After World War II, Poland once again fell under their influence, and FB was licensed to produce variants of Soviet weaponry. Project Lantern was a secret program that sought to innovate upon the AKM, introducing a new universal system and intermediate cartridge, akin to the Stoner 63. This was shut down by the Soviets as they already had the 545. Yet its adoption proved slow among their allies for economic reasons. Rather than pay the licensing for the AK-74, FB splintered off with their Tanto rifles and Onyx carbines. They were en route to adoption, but this was complicated as the fall of communism marked a new chapter for Polish history. So, the Tanto was modified into the BAL-27 556 as Poland sought NATO membership. It's still their primary service rifle, but a replacement is on its way. As part of Projekt Titan, the Modułowy System Broni Strzeleckiej is a modular platform entirely separate from the Kalashnikovs. Previously named after yet another mineral/element, it now honors the World War II general Stefan Grot-Rowecki, who helped with the Jewish ghetto uprisings before being betrayed. It's been over a decade since its reveal, and the transition from Cold War doctrine to modernity has not been an easy one for either manufacturing or training. Bureaucrats question whether it was worth switching to an entirely new weapon. And then, everything changed when Ukraine was attacked. In the wake of renewed Russian aggression towards the West and America's estrangement, Poland is willing to step up should tensions escalate. The Territorial Defense Force was re-established in response to Crimea and Donbass, and were given priority to the newest available equipment ahead of the army. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Grots were sent and battlefield demands lent to research and development. Grots have also appeared in Rwanda, who in turn supply the M23 rebels against the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So whether in the hands of invaders or the invaded, the Grot is making a name for itself. How does this reflect in mobile? Base damage per shot is moderate, killing in the standard 4, 5, 6 shots to kill. Unlike in Advanced Warfare or 2023, this version of the BAL does not have its signature slower variable fire rate for its first few shots. Thus the fire rate is fast and fires at the expected 833 rounds per minute from the get-go. If not for bullet speed, it would have had an infinite effective range instead of 30 meters in base. It's the same as the Lockman at 800 meters per second, slower than standard but easily made up for with attachments. Due to the fire rate, the time to kill is fast, like an aggressive SMG, but with AR range. The body multipliers are all over the place. Headshots offer 50% extra damage, the chest is 20% extra, and the arms are 6% extra. However, these don't matter too much. One headshot can give you a 5-shot potential at long range. Elsewhere, you need double. Yes, a 3-shot potential is theoretically possible in its first range, but that's not going to happen too often. Unlike most assault rifles, it deals 10% less damage to the legs. You don't have to worry about its final range because it'll never take more than 6 shots to kill. In its first and third range, you need 3 leg shots to fumble your time to kill. In its second range, just 1 can mess you up, but since it's a fast-firing weapon, it's more forgiving to mess with. If I am to be honest with you, I am hesitant to cover the 2022/3 weapons because of how many muzzle attachments there are. Either they are redundant or gradient. So rather than make charts on Google Sheets for 44 different combinations of muzzles and barrels, I'm just going to cover the max and mins of range and bullet speeds. I trust that you can decide for yourself what you'd like to use. With the broadhead suppressor and prime barrel, your bullet speed is at worst 640 meters per second, which is relative to SMGs and base. This combo isn't great for range, considering its 35% penalty, so I wouldn't recommend this. With the Castoviev suppressor and crown barrel, you can achieve its max bullet speed of over 1300 meters per second. Their strengths mostly balance out each other's weaknesses, but you'll have to do something about that ADS time and atrocious hipfire spread. And ultimately, you don't get as much of a range boost out of it. If you really want to max out its range, then simply replace Castovia with the Quartermaster suppressor. Now you have 65% more range and still have a solid bullet speed for multiplayer. You could also equip the Longshot perk for 10% more, but you'll probably want to use other attachments due to its slower ADS time and worse bloom. In terms of mobility, the BAL is about average for its class. The ADS time is tied with the BK-57 and Grau for slightly better than average. The sprint out is tied with the AMAX for the fastest AR and on par with pistols. The sprinting and walking speeds are average, while the strafe speed is slightly above. You could build the BAL to outsprint or outstrafe base pistols, but those gunsmiths come with quite the drawbacks and use up 4 out of 5 attachment slots. There are plenty of others that can do more with less commitment. The swap times feel average for its class, but I'll have to retest those due to some changes covered in my last patch note video. Also, weapons with the revamped animations can start firing before the full animation is completed. Base mag size is the standard 30 and can be doubled to 60. It's going to need it given its fire rate. Reload times are solid. When empty, you can cancel just before you insert the mag. With spare rounds, you can cancel when your hand blocks the view of your mag well. Sleight of hand uses different animations. When empty, you can cancel when you let go of the mag. With spare rounds, you can cancel at the peak of your raised hand. As for accuracy, the BAL is nothing special on paper. The bloom is very close to perfectly average in this game, relative to the M4 and Grau. The hipfire spread is on par with the Ram 7. Not great, especially with the leg multipliers, but not the worst since it has a fast fire rate and sprint out. But where the BAL really shines is its very easy recoil. The BAL is usually a moderate to high recoil weapon when mag dumping, but ours kicks very little and only changes directions after dumping about 30 rounds. It also helps that the iron sights are very nice in my opinion. So nice that it overshadows the fact that it's the only 2023 gun for now, and has all sorts of unique attachments for its gunsmith. The flinch is not bad. It only has to worry at range against semi-autos or the beefier LMGs. Before we get into the BAL-27 and other CODs, the actual MSBS first appeared in COD Ghost as the only burst weapon by default. You could switch it to full auto or semi, the opposite of other ARs, but there was little reason to. This MSBS had some of the harshest damage drop-offs in the entire franchise, but it was overpowered early in the game's lifecycle. It echoes the Type 95 from Modern Warfare 3, a 2-shot kill, with one of the fastest fire rates, and solid range. That's ridiculous even for a game that's infamous for its time to kill and generous hit detection. And so the range, multipliers, and fire rates were nerfed to be more of a high-skill weapon. The following year, Call of Duty outdid itself with the BAL-27. The unique reverse hyperburst meant that its first 4 shots were fired at a slower fire rate. But some of you might ask, if Advanced Warfare was the first game in the series to have noticeable skill-based matchmaking, wouldn't that mean a slower competitive time to kill? Well, the time to kill was already average, but it's not everything that makes a gun good. This feature helped ease you into its recoil when tracking jetpack movement, especially after its nerf. If this were just the base weapon, then this would have been fine, albeit strong for a starting weapon. No, the issue was really with its infamous pay-to-win Obsidian Steep variant. Technically, you could grind supply drops for free and possibly gamble for it, but then your opportunities would be very limited compared to someone who is whaling. Skill-based matchmaking and gambling are not a consumer-friendly combo. The Obsidian seats significantly increased range and had a faster ADS. The drawbacks were worse hipfire, recoil, and a slower fire rate. But much like our AGR, a slower fire rate is sometimes worth it if it indirectly makes recoil easier to control by allowing for more time to recenter. There are a few other variants that could compete, like the ASM-1 Speakeasy and HBRA-3 Insanity. Thus, there's a reason why Advanced Warfare is sometimes referred to as BAL of Duty. The BAL wouldn't reappear until 9 years later in Modern Warfare 3 2023's post-launch. Sledgehammer has and continues to be denied the right to make a sequel to Advanced Warfare. The best they can settle for is to add anachronistic weapons. Instead of a slower constant fire rate for its first 4 rounds, and then a sudden jump. This time around it's a steady acceleration for its first 5. Despite this faster fire rate, the BAL was underwhelming in 2023. The jump to 150 HP meant its time to kill was slow in close quarters. Yes, it had impressive range, but this game had a reputation for small post-launch maps. The Jack Deathmarch kit brings back its lethality from Ghosts, but as a 5-round burst instead of 3. Imagine a burst slug shotgun that's a 2 to 3 shot kill, and is basically a hit scan because it's a literal laser. However, it had a linear damage drop-off per meter, a very punishing burst delay, along with a pre-fire delay like the Micro MG 9mm. So, what are my thoughts on the BAL-27? I've been waiting for this gun to be added for a long time, and now that it's finally here, it's very fun to use. A good introduction to future Modern Warfare 3 content, and lives up to its reputation. It's basically what if the base QQ9 were an assault rifle. I will say that it's unusual to forego its slower initial fire rate. I can understand why they didn't add it, but they could have made an effort to tweak some things. Also, they still haven't added any of the aftermarket parts as attachments yet. For gunsmiths, this is what I've settled on, but honestly, you can do whatever you like. Aside from this and the Lockman, the new guns this year have felt like filler up to this point. The BAL is strong enough that it pushes the needle, but I don't think it's to the point that it tears apart the fabric of the meta like the SO-14 or USS-9 did. It doesn't quite have the movement or multipliers to outclass shotguns and SMGs in close quarters. It doesn't have the range or bloom to outclass LMGs from afar. It's just a very well-rounded AR. The flex AR for the time being. And with the newer animations, it has some subtle but substantial advantages over older weapons. How does it compare with some similar fast-firing flex bullpups? The closest comparison would be with a fellow high-tier AR, the RAM-7. Within close to mid, they perform about the same, but past that, it becomes clear that the BAL's higher base damage overtakes the RAM's multipliers. Yes, the default RAM starts out with better bullet speed, ADS time, bloom, and movement speeds, but the sheer variety of the Modern Warfare 3 Gunsmith bridges all gaps. Suppressors that help with bullet speed, lasers that help with bloom but are still invisible, 10 extra rounds in a mag are helpful on guns that burn through them. Next up is the Type 25 with stopping power, and it's pretty much the RAM-7, only better at being an SMG. Even though it has better bloom, less flinch, and is hit scan, it's even less likely to beat BAL at range because of its recoil. Also, you only have 34 rounds per mag to work with. But up close, the more nimble Type 25 can force shot to the legs with its faster ADS or superior initial hipfire. So if I were playing a slower paced, non-objective respawn mode like TDM or Kill Confirmed, I might prefer the Type 25 depending on the map. But I can't say it's for everyone. If you want an actual SMG to strafe with, then there's the CBR-4. It's more lethal than it's ever been, but it's held back by its flinch and sprint out if you don't mix in movement. Otherwise the BAL will outrange it with more ammo and better initial bloom. And the CBR has been outshined by the Switchblade ever since its buff to its multipliers and monolithic suppressor. the Gordite is another unappreciated gun that doesn't share the CBR's weakness to flinch. It's the only one of the four that can hold more ammo than the BAL, but it's also the only one without AR level penetration, and its more glaring flaw is its horizontal recoil. So, what do we do about the BAL-27? Is it too soon to start calling for nerfs? Because I'm not yet annoyed by it. It's only been a few weeks. The most obvious nerf is to give the BAL some recoil, whether a new pattern with more or earlier changes in direction, or some actual kick. A BAL without some recoil is like a BAL without its variable fire rate, but we'll get into that soon. The other nerf they could implement is to lower its final range damage so that leg shots are penalized. Of course, both of these are just stepping stones to justify adding its iconic variable fire rate. COD Mobile is no stranger to turning alternate firing modes into weapon perks. Oh, the Modern Warfare 3 version started off too slowly? Then make it faster so you get an average time to kill. Constant, accelerated, either way. We may not have 150 HP, but we'd still have to boost multipliers and add its original full fire rate for fairness. And while we're at it, why not add the Jack Death March as a barrel attachment? I don't think anyone would take issue with a swordfish that's harder to use even if it had perfect hipfire. And lastly, I know a lot of people are clamoring for a legendary or mythic blueprint, but the legacy of the Obsidian Steed is invaluable. You could probably fill an entire strongbox with the other variants from Advanced Warfare. Since the secret cache is no longer limited to Black Ops Cold War, the Death Dimension from Modern Warfare 3 could be ported as a free legendary one day. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's quick guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is On, and I'm off.